Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero, the Dew Sweeper. You're listening to the Tour Coach Podcast, giving you insights into golf instruction at the highest level, from on the PGA Tour to our learning center at Frederica Golf Club. Every now and then I get a couple down days, and I'm sitting down here in the Keys and going to have a drink of rum here shortly. But before I do, I thought I'd sit and talk to somebody who I've gotten to know a little bit over the last couple months, and his name's Noah Montgomery, and it's an interesting story. He's teaching one of the best players in the world, John Catlin. He's got an interesting story of how he's gotten to where he is, and one of the things I enjoy doing with this podcast is always to shed light and to spotlight some people that are doing some amazing things and some interesting things that maybe not everybody in the golf world sees or pays attention to. So, Noah, thanks for sitting in with me, and, man, you got lots of success. Congrats.
Thank you very much, Tony. Hey, it's, no secrets, just hard work. It's pretty upfront, and that's part of probably what I like the most about it.
Well, I want to start with where you started, because I got introduced to you or was made aware of you by our good friend Brady Riggs. Brady and I were talking about one evening I was on the road, and we were having a conversation about players, and we were talking about the development of teachers and what it takes to become a good teacher. And he brought your name to my attention, and I was aware of John Catlin and how he had kind of burst on the scenes, but didn't know much other. But he told me a little about your background. I mean, you were a police officer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir, I was.
In Oakland, if nonetheless, right?
Yeah, I was what they call a Oakland crime reduction officer. Basically, we work street-level narcotics in the city of Oakland.
Jeez.
That's what I did. And, hey, you know what? I'd go back and do it again tomorrow. It's a great profession. I know it gets a bad rep. I know times are changing, but I can tell you this. There's a lot of good work being done out there.
I agree 100%. And I'm one of the, I think that police officers and and firemen, are vastly underappreciated and, underpaid. And furthermore, people that we won't go on a political rant here, but,
right.
Everybody talks bad about the police until they're in trouble and they need someone for help. And then this is the first person they call, right?
Well, yeah. And you know what? I get it. I get both sides of it. And maybe that's what made me successful at being a policeman. I hear you loud and clear. People, shouldn't do certain things.
Right.
But, boy, the minute we start trying to put everybody in the same bucket, we could be in trouble. And if we start there, then what do we do with the golf coaching world? We're all in the same bucket now. Tony, your lessons are just terrible, right? Noah, you don't know what you're doing. Just terrible.
There's someone who agree with you on that.
Well, but I necessarily, maybe that's why I'm having some success. I look at everything at face value, Tony, and I take the good, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't, I just move on. I don't think wasting any time on the negative portion of that benefits anybody.
I agree. Well,
I'm just being honest. No good.
How did you go from being on the streets of Oakland, working narcotics, to teaching some of the best players in the world?
I definitely am a different type of personality, and basically, to give you the short version of that, I was medically retired for a pretty serious injury on the police department in Oakland.
Okay.
And I had to go to an arbitration hearing, which is, the people that know will understand what that means. And they were retiring me out of something that I was very passionate about doing. And when I say that, I was a pretty good cop.
Right.
I would say I was a great cop. They told me, well, you don't have any stipulations on your retirement, and that means I could do anything but work patrol, which I didn't work very much patrol to begin with. And they said, but one thing we wouldn't do because it would look bad is don't do golf. And I said, but am I allowed to do golf? Yeah, but we don't recommend it. Well, that's all it took.
Well, why would they not want you to do golf?
Well, because it might look bad on a videotape or something, and you could be misconstrued as a faker or something, and, the MRIs show completely different than that, right? But once again, it's a politically correct thing, and I just, it started with one small basket, and I could only get through about 10 balls, And it just grew from there. And then I was trying to, I was playing golf, helping with my kids. I also have 5 other businesses, working my tail off. And I couldn't get a golf course to let me play 9 holes, pick up my kids, go do, take care of my business and come back. So then I joined a country club. When I joined the country club, I was practicing, working on my own game, and that was it. All of a sudden, because I guess personality, I had my own golf cart, and I would haul these kids around to play golf because, they couldn't rent a cart and they didn't want to walk.
Right.
Push comes to shove, one of the older boys, after getting in long drive contests and things like that, then he comes to me and says, I want you to help me get prepared for the, the first tee open thing where they play with the senior players. And I told him no at first, and then I did help him. And, he was being coached by somebody, but once again, details, right? No detail work. I think probably worrying about the wrong thing. There was a really good podcast by Butch Harmon, There's No Perfect Swing. I agree with that. I really agree with that. I think if your mindset is correct and you kind of halfway got things going right, you'll do really good stuff. Long story short with that, Tony, he went out and fired 66, and the pro we were playing with, I won't mention his name, fired 73. And it's a beautiful story, but long story short is the pro told him, yeah, what that guy's telling you is a lie, and you should do this. That was my first taste of golf.
Yeah, welcome to our business, huh?
Yeah, and I looked right at the pro. Now you gotta understand, I didn't play high school golf. I didn't play junior college, semi-pro, nothing.
Right.
And I said, sir, with the utmost respect, I know you're on the senior tour. You've won once on the PGA Tour. With the utmost respect, my guy just shot 66. You just shot 73.
Right.
I don't think we have much to discuss. So that was my first taste. And it's, in my opinion, man, I think it was the best thing for me. Oh, no, it was the absolute best thing. And, meeting Brady, another godsend. Because I've never conferred with anybody on coaching. Not one single person have I conferred with. I was very fortunate to be helped by an older gentleman that played on the PGA Tour way back when, and, with my own game and explaining how to do this and how to do that. And, I did what everybody else did, Tony. I went around in the very beginning, and I think I racked up about $60,000 in lessons. But I couldn't play any better than when I started. I kind of changed my mindset, and I said, okay, I got to go at this a different avenue, and, I got to understand it a little bit if I want to get good. And I did. I got down to single-digit handicap, but that was something I was doing. And then I coached my second student to the Women's U.S. Open, and that was kind of like another aha moment.
When you talk about the details and the things you do, what's some of your belief structure that you believe that's important? Obviously, there isn't one perfect swing. I agree with you, and obviously I agree with Butch. And
Tony, I look at it this way, man. You got some fundamentals, and I'm probably going to get thrown under the bus for this, but I think you got to at least start somewhere neutral. And when I say neutral, everybody's going to jump on this. Well, you can't have your hands cranked around to the left or to the right too far if we're just starting out.
Yeah.
And you can't have your weight too far back, too far forward. We got to be somewhere looking like a golfer.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't believe that, we'll use John. I don't believe that John will look like Tiger Woods, and I also think that I would be very foolish if I wanted to try to get John to do what Tiger Woods does.
No question.
I'm not a believer in, hey, let me draw this up on my computer screen here. Look, now this is Vijay Singh, and here's your swing. You should look more like Vijay. I think that's, get ready, Tony, I think that's a farce.
I agree.
I think that is not coaching. That is not teaching. You have to take who's in front of you. And, I don't have any original thoughts when it comes to golf. I'm sorry. I have stole it from everybody I've ever been around.
I think that's the mark of all the great teachers. I think that...
I don't have one. I've stole it. I've stolen it from somebody.
I think we have new ways of measuring and new ways of understanding. But I don't think that players are doing anything necessarily any different, And I think that especially when you're starting out as a player, or you're starting out learning the game, and a lot of people that are listening to this are either teachers or and a lot of them are avid golfers. Most of them are probably more advanced. I think you've got to have great setup fundamentals and balance and posture. I think those things are tremendously important. I just talked to my good friend Mark Wood for 15, 20 minutes a little bit ago, talking about, the importance of being balanced at setup, right? And people don't want to do that. And, I brought up an old saying that my old mentor, Hank Johnson, used to say, and that is you can't confuse comfort with correct, right? And
I agree. And to add to that, whatever we might think is correct, that may not produce the shot for that said player.
Correct.
And
right.
I don't know who said this. I think from my past job, and, you have to be very detailed with what you're seeing, exactly what you're seeing, and be honest. You can't look for something or you'll find it. You have to be open-minded. I think when you can make a change that affects 5 things in a swing, and you can do it in a relatively short amount of time, I think you're going to be successful. And it doesn't matter if it's me or anybody else, No. And I also think, when I started trying to figure out the swing, I was looking at, Lee Trevino, Jack Nicklaus, players from the 60s. I probably have every book known to man. I can tell you when the swing left thing hit the scene on the PGA Tour because I have the book that was written by the guy that started that. I also think that we probably spend a little too much time with closure rate and all of that. I mean, let's just get right down to the brass tacks, Tony. You de-loft it a little bit. That helps your path, and you rotate like heck. It's going to come online. It's Newtonian physics. It's Newtonian physics, and we don't have to complicate it. Right? Turn the light switch on and enjoy the light. It's there. I mean, it's just there. It's there. If I've banged my head and I've asked people point blank, could you please help me? Could you please tell me what is what? And, you don't get a straight answer. I've asked you some pretty good questions, and I got straight answers. Same thing with Brady Riggs, straight answers. And, Brady calls me the bubble boy because I stay in the bubble and I coach what I coach. But I'm not bucking the system. I'm not a outlier per se. I just believe in the ball is telling us what we need to do if we pay attention. I got nothing fancy, man. We hit marshmallow range balls, and I do my coaching with that. I'll tell you, a big turning point for me was at the PGA Championship when a guy like yourself says, "Hey, how's it going, Noah Montgomery?" And I mean, I'm blown away. When 4 European tour coaches come up and shake my hand and introduce themselves, I'm kind of blown away. I mean, I don't even know what to say to that other than, can I get back to my spot on the back of the range and keep teaching? Because, I do think that people are missing some of it. And then, you got Sweeney on the putting. I think he does a great job. I've seen his stuff. I was fortunate to meet him. I think he does a good job. Radar Golf, good job. I mean, I think it's the fundamentals, man. It's when we get outside of the fundamentals and we start getting, throwing clubs over the line and whipping and ducking and diving, I think that's where we get in trouble. Just my opinion. Like I said, that could probably get me in trouble.
So how did you meet John Catlin? How did you start working with him? Interesting to me was when Brady and I were talking about you and he was telling me about the job you're doing was, how many players from all over the world you have, and you're based out of, this little place in Oakland. How did this come about?
Well, yeah, I'm based out of a place up in Northern California called The Ridge. Single owner golf course, very fortunate. They allowed me to build a private practice facility at the back of their range. A beautiful golf course. They've had five LPGA events there. Great set of people there. How did it all come about? Well, Paige Lee was my first real successful student, really hot prospect. She grew up around the same time as Bryson did. They played a lot of junior golf, same events, that kind of thing. I was working with her and there was success. John came out, wanted to join us. And, at the time, it was a little hard for him. He was missing the ball, Tony, sometimes both ways. One thing about John is the desire and the grit. So that young man absolutely has no quit in him whatsoever. But at the time, Paige Lee was 92 pounds soaking wet, hitting it 245, and doesn't miss a fairway. I think after 9 holes, she was 5 under par. That pissed him off. Especially on their home track. And I think that's what started it all. So anytime I have a bad day of coaching, I blame both of them, John Catlin and Paige Lee. I said, you are the only 2 reasons I'm still doing this. And, now it's grown. I got so many players that I'm so proud of, the work they put in. I'm a small portion of that because I'm a firm believer that any success that you have on a golf course comes from inside of you. Maybe I provided the information. Maybe I helped you out and gave you some counseling at the right moment. But how many shots have you ever hit for any of your players in the middle of the battle? None. No. They gotta stand up there and do it. Male, female, it doesn't matter. They got to stand up there and deliver it like a golfer. That's not an easy thing. I think it's very overlooked. That's kind of how that started. And then John, and most people don't know this, if your player has friends, their friends will take a look at you. Had another player take a look at me and, I don't know, lo and behold, he had 4 Asian Tour wins 1 year, 2 years into our coaching. I mean, I don't know. Is it remarkable? I wouldn't even know, Tony. I haven't been in the business long enough to be able to tell you what. I mean, 13 years?
I think that if your players get better and your players are winning and they're improving, you're doing a great job teaching. That's, in the end, our job is to help the person in front of us, right? And
yeah, where do we miss that, Tony? Isn't our job like don't harm anybody, turn them out better than when they came to us, right?
Right. And that's really all that matters. And I think the information's far less important than that. I don't think you can make people consistently better week in, week out, have a track record of making a lot of people play better, and they achieve, and they go to play high school, and then they go to play college, and some of them will play the tour, and then you'll get some tour people. And if you're in general making people better, you may say it a different way, or you may word it a different way, and communicate it however it needs to be communicated. I think we get too hung up on verbiage and the terms people use, and there's people that go on social media and then they use some of these terms and then they try to, see that so-and-so is a whatever, and look at these terms he used. And I think in the end it's about making people better.
How about this? I'll give you a good chuckle. I'm not even sure what any of those terms. Now, publicly, this is my opinion. I don't know what they mean. Of course, I know what they mean, but I don't think I can teach people by talking about external and internal and supination and pronation, flexation and ulnar deviation. I think half the people on the planet get lost in that unless they're a medical doctor.
Right.
Why not feel versus real? I mean, because we all do it. We all do it on the lesson box, but the minute we get around another teacher or anything, then our vocabulary increases, in volumes. Well, mine doesn't. That's probably why I get looked at funny. Hey, hit the inside of the ball. Oh, no, you don't ever want to do. Well, yeah, but the feel produces the right shot and the right spin rate. The feel, whether it's even possible or not, doesn't really matter. I think it's irrelevant. Tony, I've only been hemmed up by one coach, and basically I used what you said, to be honest. You tell me. I got 30 wins in 4 years. Okay, we're doing it the wrong way. I got 9 kids going to Optimist. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of those kids. And I'm not an easy guy to get along with, and they work hard. I'm just a golf coach just like the rest of them, and I'm trying to do better by people that have entrusted me to help them. And I think that, if you stray too far from that, probably not going to turn out good for you.
I agree. And I think the one thing that I, obviously your success with players, but also your willingness and your wanting to keep learning and keep improving, right? The question.
Well, I want a lesson from you, Tony. I want to go up there and watch you teach, because how would I know? That's the other part that I think people miss with,
I'm vastly overrated. You don't make
but I'm probably the dumbest guy on the planet, and I will give you second closest because I know that's your mantra. But I guess the thing is like with Brady, why we really clicked off is, I'm just honest. I can make a golf ball do what you want it to do in the air, and I know how to adjust your swing in that part. And I know to look at a better player, and where most guys are trying to throw spaghetti on the wall, I look at it differently and I say, yeah, the ball's about a half inch too far forward. I mean, numbers, whatever it is, but you move the ball back just slightly and it works, or the ball's too far back and we move it forward. I mean, don't look for stuff that's not there is my big thing. Because,
exactly.
Man, when you start doing that, you're not going to win very much.
And I think that there's different teachers for different folks, right? Like,
yes.
I always say this, like, we
talked about that. I agree.
I'm on the PGA Tour a lot, right? But like, there's guys that are great players, like Chris Como and Mike Shy are the perfect people for Bryson, right? I mean, like, my personality and the way I explain things wouldn't probably work, right, with Bryson. So he's got the right, and Chris Como and I are friends. He's one of the people I respect most out there. But, you take a Zach Suker, or you take a Rick Lamb, or, when I worked with Lucas, you take Lucas, like, I mean, certain people's communication skills work best with certain people and certain styles. And I think that's why there's so many different styles out there. But I also think that's why it's not a good idea for teachers to say so-and-so doesn't know what they're doing, right? Or that
no, I don't. Right? Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Even though there are some that don't know what they're doing, but still.
You know what? Here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up. I look at it this way. Okay, I use you as an example, Tony. This would be my question. Okay, can you rattle off the top of your head how many current PGA Tour players and how many D1 kids that you've taken all the way through? How many? Roughly. Roughly.
I've probably taken from high school to D1 over, 100 kids or more, something.
Oh, okay. Then I probably should shut up and listen to you. Now, whether I like the message or not, guess what? You've done it more times than me, and I'm probably going to learn something if I pay attention. I think where we get this bad rap is where you get these guys out there bashing everybody.
Yeah.
And it's only because they want the attention. They haven't coached anybody.
Yeah, those are my complaints with the people.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that are smart. But I think there's a big difference between a professional presenter and a professional researcher and a professional teacher.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not the guy you want presenting. I'm probably the guy you want in your camp. I'm a good motivator, and we can make effective changes. You don't want me presenting to a bunch of people. It's not my bag. I can present, but look, I'm not going to give you all the medical terms. I'm not going to do all that. I'm going to make it simple because I'm a teacher at heart, and what I want to do is make an effective change. And, people have come to me when they're at their end of their cord. You know what? It's kind of funny how we go to the top from there. I never give up on anybody. Anybody. Even these coaches that bash everybody. If you bash me, it's okay. Bash me all you want. You know what? I'll only get stronger and I'll learn from it. If you don't learn from every situation, if you don't learn from every golf ball struck, then what are we doing?
Agree.
And I'm a firm believer in that. So when I say that,
right?
Yeah, ball doesn't lie, and guess what? Results don't lie. So if you get around a bunch of teachers, you should pay attention. No way, Tony, can you know it all. No way can I know it all. Brady doesn't know it all. Nobody. Butch, one of the most successful coaches ever. You can't know it all. Now, I'd take the notes down on a napkin if I was sitting in that circle. But you know what I mean is you got to pay attention. And I think people get too full of themselves. And maybe it's social media. I put on my social media when my kids go to Optimist because I'm proud of them. I don't do that to be braggadocious. My kids actually talk about it. You have you have the dew sweepers. I have the tribe.
It's part of the business now. I don't like. My pet peeves on social media are the ones that put up every round what somebody shoots. Right? And then I'm, we're blessed and gratitude and all this. And it's, I get when a guy wins or has a breakthrough week. And kids, it's a different, when they win, I think it's awesome. I think it motivates them and it empowers them because that's their world now, right?
Well, right. And they're trying to outdo the next person just like we did in whatever endeavor. I don't know. I got one for you, Tony. I had a coach tell me, well, you don't put up what your methodology is on Instagram, so how could anybody trust you? And, and, the funny part is, I was like, okay, yeah, I see your point. Thanks. And it diffused it. That's just
I
sad.
don't ever put hardly at all what I'm working on with a player, especially a tour player, because I'm never going to give somebody who has never taught anybody in their entire life the opportunity to say something or take a shot that might plant a seed of doubt in a guy that's playing for a living, because it's too easy to do, right?
You're right.
Too many people to do that.
Yeah, and I think
there's no consequence for them, right? There's no consequence. They can say
zero.
whatever their thing is.
Zero. Well, I got one for you, and you're going to laugh. This is how open book I am, and I only remember two of the guys, Radar Golf and Sweeney. I think the other guy works with Brooks, and I think his name is Jeff. I'm not sure. But anyway, we're sitting at this table, right? And this will tell you who I am. I said, okay, I got some masterminds right here in front of me. I go, I want you to look at this swing. This is a girl that I've worked with for a long time. And she actually shaped the way I coached probably more than any other individual because, and you've had this in your career, whatever I tried to change very early on, she would cry.
Mm-hmm.
She would just start crying because she couldn't do it. And that was about like oil and water for my personality, right? Because my personality is, get after it and attack.
Yeah.
And fight it, and don't worry, it'll be okay, right? Well, she changed kind of my DNA, if you will. I still coach her to this day, but she gets way across the line. She unloads it, shoveling it and coming down to the ball. But she could shoot 2, 3, 4 under with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, guys, how do I change that? How do I help her and get her? And they all looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, it's an honest question. Never been around this many coaches in my life, ever. How do you do that? Here's the crazy part. Besides Brady and besides yourself, that's the first time I've ever asked anybody about coaching, period.
Mm-hmm.
Best advice, the putting coach, Sweeney. Have an LPGA Tour player do a video message for her and say, listen to the coach. You see, now, I never thought of that.
He's good. I like Sweeney.
Yeah, but you see what I mean, though, right?
Recently.
Yeah, but just outside of the box. Just outside of the box. Boom, like that. Never thought of that. I shared the story with her. She started making the change.
I think that, the coaches that all share and exchange, I think it's a good community, I think it's healthy rather than the bashing. But, Noah, you're doing awesome stuff. It's fun to watch. I've enjoyed the opportunities we've had to chat, get to know each other, and obviously you're in good hands out there with Brady if he ever comes back from the island. But
I don't know that he will, but I just keep going, and that's what else are we going to do? That's it. One foot in front of the other.
If you don't mind, let everybody know how to find you on social media. It's great stuff, and so people can reach out. And I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me. Best of luck to you and John and all the guys you got and girls you got playing all over the world. It's awesome stuff to watch.
Thank you very much, Tony. I greatly appreciate it and feel honored to be on this podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Tour Coach with Tony Ruggiero. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are listening to this podcast. You can stay up to date because we have weekly episodes coming your way with fascinating people in the world of golf instruction at the highest level. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. If you want to learn more about Tony, head over to dosweepersgolf.com to get all the details on what he's up to. Maybe you want to see him, grab a lesson, or go to one of his camps, pick up his book, Lessons from the Legends. You can do that there. If you want to see Tony in action with some videos and other content, head over to golfsciencelab.com/Tony to get more info there. This episode was powered by the Golf Science Lab and was edited, mixed, and produced by Just Hit Publish Productions.
We go into year 2 of the Tour Coach. It wouldn't be possible without the support of all our sponsors. And I've had some great ones. And one of the things that I'm most proud of in my career and in my business is the fact that all of my relationships here and all these sponsorships have been long withstanding relationships, haven't jumped from sponsor to sponsor and manufacturer to manufacturer. And I've always prided ourselves in special relationships and when people work together, support each other, and we've all put out great products for the benefits of everybody else. So I want to give a special thanks to these folks that have been with me for such a long time, and that would be the folks at Shrixon, Cleveland Golf and Zexio. Couldn't ask for a better manufacturer to be aligned with. And not only do they put out great product and great support, but they're first-class people, and they believe in what we're doing here on the Tour Coach and with the Dew Sweepers, and also Vineyard Vines. Ian, Shep, TJ, and all the folks at Vineyard Vines. It's hard to keep me looking good, but they do a fantastic job. And they're like family. They support everything on the Dew Sweepers, and we're so proud to be affiliated with and support the folks at Vineyard Vines. So if you're out there, you're listening to the Tour Coach, please support our sponsors, Strixon, Cleveland Golf, Zexio, as well as Vineyard Vines, and keep listening and keep enjoying hanging out with us here on the Tour Coach.